All right, folks, welcome back to our cherry blossom project. So now what we're going to do, we're going to come over here, and the first thing we're going to do now, we're going to go ahead and create a palette. So you guys know how to do that. Go to palettes, let's hit on plus, and now that's an untitled palette. Let's call it cherry blossom. Now, in the download for this section, I've included my finished palette for you guys to make sure that you guys have all the colors you're going to need. I've also included in the reference the layers file in case you wanted to follow along from the previous lesson and decided to skip ahead. All right, we hit done. Now we make sure we have it as our default palette. And now when we come up to our disk, we actually have the right palette. Now you see the cherry blossom down below here. Now there's a ton of stuff we can do. Let me show you the easiest way to do this. We're going to use our color picker tool, which you guys saw before. And now let's say I like this color of pink. Click off here, grab my color picker tool. And now I can grab the color of pink from my design and it adds it over here to the color wheel. And then how do we add it to the palette, folks? Tap on it. Now we have a base color. All right, this is powerful. This is one of the reasons why I really like working in reference. Okay, so now we go over here, and we're going to begin creating our different layers. Now, I have a very simple layer structure that I use. It might seem complex, but if you get this layer structure down, your complex projects will work out well. I always begin in my layers, and I'm going to rename, and I'm going to call it base layer. Okay, and then I create one called shadow layer. And then I do one called highlight layer. Now I'm working indestructively. Or I should say non-destructively. All right. Now, this is something that I haven't showed you before. Go ahead and swipe now to the right. Swipe the shadow layer to the right. Swipe the base layer to the right. This is how you group. Now you see the three lines that come up? Let's go ahead, tap on the three lines, and you've just created a group. Now let's rename the group. We're going to call this petals. Okay, because we're going to be working in the petal area. Now, you see the little arrow there that's pointing down? Let's go ahead, point it down, and you see the group now has these layers inside of it. If you're confused about this, folks, refer back to the lesson on grouping layers, right? Layer management. All right, so once we've got that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to twirl that layer down. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hide the highlight layer and the shadow layer. I'm going to lock my sketch layer, and I'm going to lock my first sketch layer. All right, now the base layer for the petals. This is the one we're going to be working with. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to grab my paintbrush. I'm going to grab my round brush. Now there's a ton of ways you can do this. This is just my method. I'm going to come over here using my gestures. And now I make sure my opacity is up. And I make sure my brush size is down. Oh, and I make sure that I'm actually on the layer itself. Let's go that route. Okay, now you can do this a ton of ways. I choose to do it this way. And what you'll find with digital art, folks, there's really no way home. There's 100 ways to get where you want to go. Okay, and you'll notice I'm keeping the opacity fairly up on this thing, right? Okay, now the reason I did it this way, we're now going to flood select. Pow, problem solved, problem staying solved, right? Okay, using my gestures, I'm coming back down here, making sure my brush is still selected. And I'm just going to go ahead and color that one in. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to color this one in. And lastly, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to color this one in. And this is why we kept our sketches pretty loose, folks. Oops. Use the gestures, move it over, move it up. Now, if it gets too large, we can always just flood fill it. And if it gets too large, we can always just flood fill it. All right, so that is how you create the base layer. So the purpose of this video, folks, you have different layers. You create the layers. I use 3, base layer, shadow layer, highlight layer, in a group. So as we go through, the way I see it, there are going to be 3 distinct groups. There is the petal layer, there's going to be that center stamen type layer, and there's going to be some leaf layers. All right, folks, let's go ahead and cut the video here on this base layer, and then in the next layer. And then in the next video, we're going to show you how to do the shadows. All right, we'll see you in the next one.